Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast with Mike Trainer, Jay Jules, and John Depot. Hey, what's up, Giant fam? Welcome to the BBO NYG Podcast. I'm Mike, that's Jules. No John this week. John is going to see Ricky Gervais, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Or Richie? Richie or Ricky?
I think it's Ricky. I believe it's Ricky.
It is Ricky, right? It's
it's
like
Ricky.
my mind messed up. I'm drinking like the fizzly bubbly weed can in a can. So I'm a little bit messed up right now. So yeah, John's out. So I guess we'll just do the draft recap, man.
Yeah, listen, right now that's the main topic. That's everyone's discussion. You know, everyone's their armchair analyst, if you would. And that's what all the talk of the town is, right?
See a lot of A's. A lot of A. Everybody's giving the Giants an A. An A for the draft.
Lots of A's. I saw a couple B pluses, but overall, the Giants draft in general has been very, very well taken in and applauded. Like, I don't hear as much hate as I thought I would.
Yeah.
Obviously after the first night
with Banks
that we traded for Banks, that's been sort of the thing. So, we dropped so much of our opinion on the other night when we were watching the draft and we are doing the 100th episode and everything else. And here's episode 101. But what are your thoughts now, Mike, after like that? Just focusing on round one. We're going to get into Friday in a little bit, but focusing on round one, with some afterthoughts that you've had now you absorb.
Right. Well, this is the thing. We both were kind of like, Banks both our fingers are crossed, saying like, I hope he's the guy opposite of Adoree this year that just steps in place right away and takes over. Because if that's the case, great, man. You couldn't be more happier, because then Adoree Jackson becomes like expendable. If that Cordell Flott takes over, which he was supposed to do like last year, if he's the guy too. So then you have those two corners starting and going forward. And then Adoree Jackson with his contract later on probably, leaves the Giants. But there was a big thing that came out either yesterday or today that the Giants tried to trade up in the first round to take Zay Flowers. So then you're like, was that kind of like a panic move in a way? Or it was just like, he was like kind of like our second choice? And that kind of bothers me a little bit, even though we got a wide receiver later on day two, but it's tough, man. It's really tough.
I mean, look, here's the thing with that, right? So yes, I'm glad you brought up the whole Zay Flowers thing, because I was tweeting out and going crazy about that all day today. And it's funny how these things come up after the fact, right? So in hindsight, if we were sitting here and it was Thursday and it was the draft and all of a sudden we hear the Giants pick is in and they trade up past, let's say, Baltimore, right? Because that's who drafted him, right? And literally we hear that they pick Zay Flowers. I would have lost my mind, actually, because number one, I was not a big fan of him. When you went to the 4 wide receivers that were taken in the first round, he was 4th for me. I even had Hyatt ranked ahead of him. If you look at their overall numbers, Hyatt's faster, he's bigger, he's taller. And fine, if you want to sit here and people are going to sit there and they're going to come at us and they're going to tell me shit where, oh, Zay Flowers is a fantastic route runner and you don't see the way. And it's like, first of all, he's playing at Boston College. If he was that fantastic of a route runner, he would have been at a more prolific type school where they would have given him his props on that kind of shit, right? And there's plenty of schools in the Northeast that he could have went to that have a better pedigree than fucking Boston College. Yeah, granted, Matt Ryan, but I dare for people to like really drop a whole bunch of names of stars that came out of Boston College. So whatever you want to say. So this guy's faster, he's bigger, gonna maybe say stronger, right? And literally somehow, some way, Zay Flowers is like fucking that much ahead of him because of quote unquote route running. We're gonna get around, of course, but
you can learn that. So, you can definitely learn that too.
Right. So like to really go into that hard, it is crazy to me to like say that this dude is so much ahead of him. And I'm gonna really go into Hyatt in a bit because that was one of my picks. So when we get to round 2, but heading on back to Banks, and this will come up, and this will be sort of a reoccurring thing that I'm going to talk about throughout this podcast today. But what the biggest thing with Banks is his athleticism. So look, this guy literally went to the combine and crushed it. I mean, that's what he did. He showed that he could run, he could jump, he's agile, he's all these different things as a defensive player. And his main premise in college was to play man. right? So, they will show some of his better plays sometimes that were made when he was in zone over there in Maryland. But at the same time, Maryland was using him as a press corner coverage, which fits into Wink Martindale's scheme. So you have this fucking overly talented athletic guy that is used to playing man coverage, and that's what Wink wants. And I think that's the reason why they went with Banks. As far as him being the cornerback too, coming straight out of camp, or he's there to replace Dory Jackson and all this kind of shit, maybe. All right, that's a maybe. I do realize that the Giants have brought in tons of corners. Dable's even been quoted as saying that you can never have too many cornerbacks in the room, right? That's what he went out and said after the press conference, after they made the first round pick. So, you have some of that there. He's a working talent, though. That's what people are going to have to understand, that he's not ready to come out and be corner 2 straight out of camp. It's not happening. Maybe camp, maybe preseason, he's going to mix and match. Maybe he does. Who knows? Maybe he has such a strong summer that he just stands out and this kid's ready to go. But the reality behind it is, and from what I'm reading and hearing, is that the reason why the Giants moved up, the reason why they did this and they grabbed him when they did, because yes, number one, some of the top guys were gone, but secondly, was his athleticism. That his athleticism was better than Porter's was, because that was a guy that we were constantly going back for. He's definitely the better athlete. Whether or not that's going to translate into being a star corner in the NFL remains to be seen. So do I love the pick? Has that changed anything for me? Absolutely not. But knowing that we got one of the most talented guys in that position, just based off of physical awareness and everything else, makes me deal with that a little bit easier. And plus probably what happened on Friday really makes it like that much easier, because, I mean, I don't know, unless you had anything else to add about Banks. I don't know.
I mean, he has all the attributes, but he did hold Marvin Harrison Jr. to like 60 yards or whatever in college. It's like a one-on-one matchup. He held him in check. So it's definitely something to, maybe look forward to. I just want to be like, his first interception, I just want to yell. When he gets it and he's going for a pick 6, I'm like, take it all the way to the banks.
Bank that shit.
That's what I want to be yelling at and shit.
Absolutely, dude.
I mean, all draft picks, it's just like all hope for the best. But round 2 comes into play. We get arguably the best center. I think the Jets kind of really fucked it up by taking what's his name? Tippett, Tip Man. So they took him. I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought the Jets were gonna go Schmitz, and then we got John Michael. I'm like, holy shit, he's there. They didn't have to move up in the second round to grab him. He kind of fell in their laps, and they took him to solidify the offensive line. I tell you, the offensive line looks a lot better today, and a lot of depth. Man. I'm not used to the Giant team having any kind of depth. Way before Jerry Reese even Jerry Reese kind of messed he screwed the pooch on that one. So they really focus on that, and we got a lot of fucking pieces there, man.
I mean, listen, not only that, I mean, this is something that, fine, Gettleman is credited for taking Andrew Thomas, which was kind of like, it was maybe one or two other guys that he could have taken in that spot, but he took him and he got it right? And then we go and we take Dean and Neil rather in the first round in the top 10. So we have 2 top 10 pick tackles rather. And then you go in the second round, and with your pick in the second round, you take a center. So that's literally been the last 3 drafts, right? So anyone who's out there talking about rebuilding this whole line, and that's a necessity, and having it set up and making sure we went out and handled it. That's handled now, right? And I guess the only knock, if you could try to find one in Schmitz's game, is that they said he's not that much he's not a prolifically polished pass protecting center as of today. His run game is so much ahead of it that his pass protection is sort of overshadowed by how good of a run blocker he is.
Ain't that typical though? That's
I think it might be, right? I mean, listen, you're gonna have to make adjustments anyway going from college to the NFL. And if he needs to just really kind of focus in on his pass protection, like most of our offensive line does, right? I mean, that's the thing that Andrew Thomas had with his growing pains in year 1. That's what we saw out of fucking Neal in year 1 at right tackle. So, that's expected for a rookie player to have to go through, is adjusting to it with different blitz packages and all the things that they come at you with these defensive coordinators when it comes to passing plays, right? So you're right. Look, here we are. We're sitting there, at least I am, after the first pick, looking at things, and then all of a sudden here comes the second round, and I'm like, you know what? It was just falling to us where seeing Tippmann go, because I thought that might have been a guy, because if you saw, I was tweeting out my board earlier in the day, and I was like, the guy that we eventually got, we'll get to in a minute, but also Schmitz being there. Those were my top two guys. Literally my top two guys for round two. And the fact that Schmitz felt us a look, I knew Hyatt was still there, but I didn't even want to argue that. I was literally at that point where I was like, you know what? He's a solid center. We talked about getting a center last season. We now went out and got one this season. We got arguably the best one. He's there. Fuck it. We need it. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and especially with all the moves that Dallas made and fucking Philly had made with their defensive line and adding to it, you got to figure, fuck it. Great move, smart. Let's be safe and steady there. You know what I'm saying? So loved it. They were, don't forget, there was guys on Twitter on Wednesday, Tuesday, that week of the draft saying that we should take him in the first round, Schmidt. We took him at 25, which I thought was ridiculously outrageous. And I remember getting into it with some of those guys, and they were saying, there's no way you're going to get him at 20, the second round pick. Oh, 57? No way. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you're probably right. And then that's when I was mentioning guys like Avila and Tippmann, who actually went ahead of him in round two, which was surprising. Because I saw those guys go, and I'm like, oh, fuck, it's any minute now. You're going to hear Schmitz's name called. And he just fell. He just fell to us, man, for whatever fucking reason. I don't know if it's part of the reason that he plays in Minnesota, right? Because sometimes those type of Big Ten schools, they kind of got like hidden because they're at like that part of the country that just doesn't get as much press and notoriety, and they didn't have many big games this year. So there's a lot of those things that sort of factored in. It's not like a guy from the South that's playing against Alabama and Florida where you're going to see these guys 4 or 5 times out of the year, right?
True.
So, I don't know if that was part of it. I don't know if people were really kind of held hard up on his pass protection. We got our guy. And all of a sudden on Friday, I'm feeling better. You know what I mean? Like the whole Banks thing went out the window. Granted, Porter went first to the Steelers, which I fucking noted before we signed off from the episode.
First pick.
First pick. Like they didn't even waste
right away. Yeah, right away.
I saw that coming from a mile away. I remember I was listening to some other podcasts earlier in the day that day, and they were just saying, well, if we see Porter hanging around, there's not going to be any debate. And what if he goes to later? And I was like, yeah, but what if he goes to the Steelers like he should have, but he goes fucking first pick in the second round, right? Exactly what happened. So it is what it is, and we could sit here and talk about it till we're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, we went Banks simply because he was the more athletic guy. That's it. There's no questioning it. That's what it was. And he has more experience playing man, more so than maybe Porter does. And Wink felt that was the better fit. We're good to go.
Yeah.
And we go on. We get the center that we're getting, and now we're sitting there, right? And I don't know about you, Mike, but like that third round, just felt like it was taking forever. Like the second round flew by, right? Just don't forget, they draw out the first round so much, right, that it takes up an entire night. And then in the same amount of time, they somehow go through rounds 2 and 3, like magically.
Yeah, right. Real quick, everybody knows it. Even with the special guests announcing picks and shit, like all night, pretty much like at the same time. But listen, you must be happy about round 3. I kept seeing his name as a top wide receiver left in the draft, like Mel Kiper's top wideout. You must be happy with what's his name, Jules?
Jalen Hyatt.
The deep threat, the best deep threat of the draft. Finally, somebody the Giants could have to go over atop of the defense for once in the past since like probably Odell left. So, I'm happy about that pick.
And the number one knock on him, right? And the reason why he was the 5th or I think the 7th or 8th wide receiver taken off the board, whatever it was, right, is his route running ability. That was number 1, right?
Yep.
Which then puts him into the category of like a Will Fuller or a Deshaun Jackson, right? These are big names. Now, Will Fuller's career probably would have been better if he wasn't hurt every
season. He's always hurt every year.
Whenever the kid played, though, you would see fucking 5 catches, 105 yards and a touchdown. 5 catches, 4 catches, 112 yards and a touchdown. Like that's all Will Fuller did. You know what I'm saying? So that's what this guy is. But then when you look at it, right? So now I always bash all these like PFF and the combine and all this kind of shit and all this nonsense. But I did it today anyway, just for shits and giggles, right? So we were going to trade up for Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers actually is slower on the 40-yard dash. He has a smaller vertical. His PFF score overall is lower than Jalen Hyatt's. As a matter of fact, Jalen Hyatt, and again, take this with a grain of salt, but this is what they do, and this is all we can go on as of today. He got a 6.5 score on the PFF. Do you realize that not one of the first 4 guys taken in round 1 scored a 6.5 on that same scale at the combine?
Did not know that.
Okay, they were close. I mean, Quentin Johnson was like a 6'4" or a 6'7" or some shit like that. Zay Flowers was like a 6'4". Like they were right there, but they didn't get the official score of a 6'5". So here's a fast, like I was saying earlier, faster, bigger body, stronger. Fuck it, does what he does. Like that's it. Look, am I saying that this dude's going to step in and he's going to be our wide receiver one? Absolutely not.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what we're drafting him for.
It'd be nice.
It would be great,
especially with all the injuries going into next season.
Right.
He's going to have the opportunity. He really is.
He should. I mean, listen, no Wendell, but don't forget, right? You're still you have a healthy Slayton. Shepard's supposed to be healthy as of right now, right? Maybe. You have Hodges, right? Hodges is coming in healthy. He's fine to go. Those are the three guys that were there. You're bringing Jamison Crowder, you're bringing Paris Campbell, and now you're bringing Hyatt, right? And I haven't even fucking mentioned Wendell Robinson. Now, look, does that sound like any of those 7 guys are a true number 1 receiver in the NFL? No.
Better than practice squad players, though.
Oh, yes. Having thrown Richie James season out there and the names we were fucking fielding last year were 100 times better than we were a year ago.
No practice squad plays no more.
Yeah, for real. And there's a hell of a lot more competition and everything else that's involved with it. And look, could Jalen develop into it? Yes. Is he there right now? No. Could I see a similar style of numbers that Slayton had as a rookie? Yes, absolutely. Maybe a few more catches, maybe a little bit more yardage, but somewhere in that neighborhood where, he has 65 catches, 900 yards, 7, 8 touchdowns, right? Like that's realistic to what to expect out of him, especially knowing that Darren Waller's there. Barkley's still going to be eating. You have all these other guys that are in the mix that are going to be taken away from his touchdowns and everything else. But overall, I was ecstatic about this pick. That guy was on my board. I would have been okay if the Giants took him in round 2.
That's what they said. That's what he said. He's like, they were going back and forth. Like, who do we take? They almost went Hyatt in round 2, but they decided to wait. And lo and behold, it fucking paid off for them. They got lucky.
And it cost us what, a 4th round pick, right? Yeah. That's what everybody's talking about. And again, we went through this years ago with Leonard Williams, right? When we gave up the 3rd round pick. And that was a 3rd round pick, right?
Yeah.
But the way that you have to now look at it, and then this is what the coaches for the New York Giants are looking at it, right? Is that we also got Darren Waller in the 3rd round, right? So if you look at it, right, like you can add that to the mix. And granted, he may not have the same kind of shelf life or longevity that some of these younger guys have, but he's still going to be a focal point of our offense going into 2023, which is something you just can't take for granted. So yeah, we gave up that 4th round pick, but if you look at the 4 guys that we had in those first 4 rounds with Banks and with Schmitz and with Hyatt and Darren Waller, what better were you going to get? What were you going to get at round 4 that was really going to be that much of a standout? This guy's going to break out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these other guys like Gabriel Davis and some of the ones that the Buffalo's gotten lucky with. And the reason why I reference them all the time is because, obviously Shane is sort of like an apprentice of Bean. So if you want to do comparisons, sometimes you'll see, and I noticed it a little bit more this year, more so than I did last year, but there was a lot of similarities between the way Buffalo drafted and the way we drafted. And you just got to understand, that's his protege. That's his protege now. That's it. So it makes sense to kind of pay attention to that team because we're going to build very similar to it, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. And like I said, man, I left Friday night ecstatic, dude. I didn't care about the rest of the draft. The 4 players I mentioned were all on board. Yep. We got the 2 guys that I wanted to see us get. We got them. I know a lot of people were big on that Ringo kid, right? What was that wide receiver again?
Yeah, Ringo wide receiver. Yep.
And he went earlier. You know what I mean? So again, to me, look, you got a true 6-foot guy weighing in around 180, 185, who's a burner. He's going to be the fastest guy in that wide receiver room, arguably.
No doubt.
Arguably the fastest dude. He's faster than most of the 4 guys that went in the 1st round, right? And the only thing you want to knock him on is his routes. The dude still caught for over 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns on 70 grabs almost last year in college, with his quarterback not even playing a full season. Hayden Hooker didn't even play the whole year. Could you imagine what his numbers would have been if Hayden was healthy the whole season? And if you want to just say, oh, well, he had that one game against Alabama, fine. If you take away those numbers in Alabama, he still had 1,000 yards with 10 touchdowns. So you can't knock the guy for literally just sitting there and being like, well, yeah, just one game. One game against one of the best teams in college football. He had that game, keep in mind. So
I was going back, between him and Cedric Wilson. I know he's the other Tennessee wide receiver. Right. So it was kind of like almost like a toss up, but like, yeah, you can't let Hyatt go and slip out of that room when he's right there for the taking, and you don't need to trade up and you go that route, which is just fantastic. It felt like the draft was like almost like we drafted for not just need, we drafted the best player available, but it just happened to be a position of need. And I love when it works out that well, that way. So it was fantastic to go that route. But then, like the last day of the draft, rounds 4 through 7, a lot of time between picks that day. I
The
tell you,
only, the only I want to just add to that previous thing though is, and I know I don't want to spend too much focus on what Dallas did and what the Eagles did, and I know there's
fuck them.
a lot of talk, right? There's a ton of talk on it. The only thing that annoyed me a little bit was how teams almost traded with us, right? Like the Eagles literally got to move up again with the Bears in round 1 to open the night, basically, right? And they don't like one of their picks isn't until 2025. It's like what the like really not even this year or next year, like 2 years from now. Like meanwhile, we had to give up a 4th round for this year's draft, right? Like you know what I mean? So it's those little things that like just like sit in the back of my mind that drive me nuts at night because I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, how the fuck is everybody always dealing with the Eagles so easily and they're just like giving shit away to them? But for us, we had to give up that 4th round to just move up in the 3rd. Like it makes no sense. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I didn't
So that
like
was the only sort of like negative part I took from Friday was just like thinking of that out loud. But whatever, it is what it is. I was still going to bed on Friday night, happy as a fucking motherfucker because damn, we crushed the draft. Am I sold on Banks? No, but they tell me that we got the most athletic dude, and let's see. Yo, he returned kicks in college. Maybe he can do the same for us, right? You're better to have a fucking Richie James back there. And at least you have a shitload of corners now that you can kind of mix and match in case something happens to him. You don't have to put a Dory back there. That's the reason why I got fucking hurt, right?
Yeah, good point. We do need somebody to return punts and return kicks, so
yeah,
maybe that's an option. Yeah, but fuck the Eagles. Fuck them for getting the Swift for like a 7th round pick. I hate them with a passion, but yeah, I don't want to talk about them. But yeah, the final day of the draft, 4 through 7. First pick, running back, Eric Gray, Oklahoma running back. Kind of like reminds me of some of the Eagles actually. Their running backs like Gainwell, Bart Scott. You know what I'm saying? The guys like they had in the past. I think he has the opportunity to be number 2 behind Barkley and be that change of pace back. Catches a lot of screens, little shifty guy. So I'm looking forward to see his game, man. He looks like he got some moves.
the
Big
only
school,
thing,
big
the
school,
only thing I
Oklahoma.
think I could really find that was off with this guy was his 40 time. Because that's the only reason why. Because if not, I mean, if you just listen to who he is as far as like numbers are concerned, you have Oklahoma's starting running back, right? Like Oklahoma's been known for having decent running backs. Like they put this stuff out in the Big 12. He had 1,366 yards rushing with 11 rushing touchdowns. Like that's nothing to like just kind of laugh at. Like that's
Right.
pretty premier stats in the Big 12. Like that's a major conference, right? To put with another 33 catches with 229 yards. So like, the kid could catch the ball. He was running, he was good. And I was like, yo, how the hell did he fall in the 5th round? Like it made no sense. Like I would have thought he'd be like a 4th or a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
And he was sitting there. And then you look at it, but his 40 was a 4.65. And they said his lateral movement isn't the most elusive, right? So he's one of these guys that's just going to hit the hole, hit it hard, and run you over, which is fine because we have Barkley to do the other type of shit, right? So this is what the reason why I think we have him in this position is to take those hard yards, right? Like instead of like putting Matt Breida through it, who's a little older, a little smaller, you have this kid that could just bolt through. If he can hold on to the ball and pick up some pass blocking early, you'll see that kind of style where we'll mix and match with him with Breida a little bit, and it'll just make Barkley fresher for the 4th quarter, fresher for late in the season, fresher for hopefully another playoff run, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where this was a good depth piece at. Also, he's got enough talent to play in the big games where if something did happen with Barkley or we don't re-sign him or extend him or anything like that, you got this guy as another dude competing for it where you don't have to go out in the 1st round or 2nd round next year and get a running back.
Word.
It's not going to be that much of a need. So a good pick overall. I liked it where it was. Look, you could look at what Dallas did with their pick. I believe in the 6th round, they got more of like a Darren Sproles type of running backs that late. This guy's a little bigger. He's got the body. He's got the yardage. He played for a good school. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? I don't hate the pick. I think it was good. Great depth piece ad. and sky's the limit for the guy.
Definitely needed another running back in that room. I don't think they have a lot of confidence in Barkley's backups. They definitely need a playmaker there. Speed round through the rest of the guys, rest of the draft picks. Trey Hawkins, quarterback, Jordan
Well,
Ryan,
and
defensive
real quick with
tackle.
Trey Hawkins, a lot of people were happy about this pick. He's another one of these man coverage guys. He played a lot of man coverage. Granted, it was at Old Dominion, so that's the knock there, right? That he played at that kind of a school.
Yeah.
But
He's big.
fits what Wink does. He's all into that kind of shit. And this adds more depth to that position that we didn't have depth in last season. Once 2 or 3 injuries occurred, we were lost. We were scrambling. That's not the case this year. So another good piece, special teams guy, probably be in the mix. Who knows? Maybe he develops into something.
But hey, listen, he's big, 6'2". You know what I mean? It's nothing.
6'3". They got him listed out on CBS.
They got him 6'3". Yeah, so that's
big guy, man corner. You know what I'm saying? So
if he picks up his game, yeah, you're right. Can never have enough fucking corners.
Right.
That's for sure.
We'll be set there. So it is what it is.
Yep. And then like I said, Jordan Riley, and then Travarius Owens, safety. These are probably like 2-3 year projects. You know what I'm saying? Late in the draft, you never know.
You never know.
So we'll see what's up with them. And then the undrafted free agents. I'll give you the list, and if you got anything to say, Jules, just stop me.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, it's funny because I feel like this year's undrafted free agents got like some notoriety. Like there was definitely some buzz going on about them.
Yeah, a little hyped up.
A little hype, which is weird. But yeah, let's go through the list a little bit. I want to see how you have the order of the list. So
all right. Tommy DeVito, quarterback, Illinois.
Danny DeVito's brother. That's why you went first with him, right?
Listen, long as he's taller than Danny DeVito, like I'll be happy with him. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, listen, dude, if at best that dude's gonna be running the practice squad for us. So welcome, Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. And then, all right, we needed linebackers. We didn't draft any, so we're gonna have to go there. This guy, Habakuku Baldonado, offense. O-line. Not O-line. Jesus, outside linebacker from Pitt.
Yeah.
So
he's a big dude. He can line up inside. You never know with that. I mean, look, we did sign a long snapper, right? Cam Lyons, right out of Charlotte. Like, listen, that's a position of need. I could see that guy actually making the team if he's that good of a long snapper, right? Like, it's little things like that. But just jumping ahead, I just wanted to kind of get to like one of the names that would be sort of circled and discussed a little bit is Bryce, and then it's Ford Wheaton, the wide receiver for West Virginia, right? So like
it's like 7 feet tall.
Yeah, and he's fast. Apparently, he's like really fast. He's tall and fast. Like the jokes that have been circulating regarding him is like, I don't remember the coach, and I'm gonna butcher the whole quote, so I'm gonna paraphrase it. But in other words, it was like literally something along the lines of saying, there are times where you look like Calvin Johnson, and then there's other times where you look like you can't make the Iowa fucking flag football team. Okay. So like it was some weird like comparison like that this kid got brought up for. And it's going to be very interesting to see what we get out of him. Granted, he's a tall dude. He's 6'3", big guy. I'm trying to look up his 40 times. So I thought I had it written down.
4.38.
4.38.
Yeah. So pretty nice.
That's what's crazy about that, Mike, is that now makes him the fastest guy in the wide receiver room for the New York Giants.
If he makes the team, that's why.
If he makes the team, that's why I didn't say it. Granted,
listen, I understand there's a lot of hype, Jules, but like these right now, majority of these guys are like practice squad. Maybe they make the team this year. These are like 3-year project guys, and everybody's hyping this kid like he's going to be our number 1 wide receiver. I'm like, let's calm down, let's fucking relax. You know what I'm saying? He has talent. Some of these guys just need to get that talent untapped. You know what I'm saying? So let's. Hopefully, maybe he'll make a name for himself in the league.
And there's a reason why he went undrafted. You know what I mean?
That's it.
I get it. He may have been West Virginia's standout wide receiver this season. Cool. You know what? But there's 128 Division I college football teams, which means there's 128 wide receiver ones out there, right? So you're not gonna take like the 127th best school in the fucking country and say that we grabbed their number 1 wide receiver and we're gonna fucking jump for joy.
Yeah,
exactly. He's got the frame, he's got the look, and he's got speed like no one else.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't fucking know. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's cool. You know what I mean?
Listen, if he comes out like Victor Cruz in the preseason, has like 3 touchdowns, I'm like, all right, maybe maybe he'll make the team. But yeah, all right.
And the crazy shit with that is it's like he's gonna have to beat out guys like Hodgins for his spot. You know what I'm saying? Or Slayton. And I don't see that happening. You know what I mean? So like ultimately, what I think this team would like to see is, I guess Paris Campbell with Slayton and or Shepard and or Robinson with Hyatt. Right. That's literally the receivers they want to see on the field. And no knock to anyone else. I know Crowder's going to get his, and if I left anyone else off from the mention, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. But like that's ultimately what they're building here. When and if that happens, probably not till October, November. But with all that said, it's nice to have this guy on there. If he really is the fastest guy, they'll figure something out. You know what I mean? For sure. But
maybe
it was crazy how much notoriety he was getting.
Yeah.
Like being this unrestricted free agent. And I was just like, man,
if he's so fast, if he's so fast, maybe it'd be like a Ron Dixon where he can return kickoffs for fucking touchdowns. You know what I mean? If that's if he could be like that at Devin Hester, hey, listen, maybe there'll be a spot on his team. We'll see.
Right.
All right. Next guy, Deontay Johnson, inside linebacker, Toledo. He had 109 tackles last year. He impressed in the one of the bowl games. He was all over the field. So listen, keep bringing him into the room. You know what I'm saying? We need more and more linebackers. And the other linebacker they got was Troy Brown from Eli Manning's old school Ole Miss. So a couple guys there.
And did you mention Guimon Green?
Guimon Green, the quarterback, Michigan.
Corner for Michigan. Yep.
6'2",
Another one. He's like another one of those big body guys that we mentioned earlier. Like that, And like Dable was noted for saying you can't have too many corners. So there we go, bringing in another kid from another big school, right? Big Ten, Michigan, whatever.
Yep.
But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like clearly we are addressing a secondary need, right? And some of these guys too, Mike, they could step up and some of them can become safeties, So, like you never know, especially that they're a little bigger, right? And they have more size to them and they got the speed. Sometimes they automatically come into the NFL and they shift over to safety. And this could be like an eventual like Julian Love replacement or something like that. So you never know. You never know. I'm not saying that he will, but we mentioned a couple other corners that were taken from our draft. Clearly, the Giants coaching staff and personnel came in and said, look, we are not running into the situation we ran into last year. We're not going to fucking sit back and lose a Dory and lose Flott and all of a sudden and Robinson, right? Because don't forget, Aaron Robinson's still there. You know what I mean? Like he's still around. We traded up for him in the third round a couple of seasons ago to bring this guy in. So we've got, I feel like, an abundance of corners. Whether or not any of these really, turn into like some sort of star in the NFL remains to be seen. Probably not. But you don't need, complete stud fucking corners to win. You know what I mean? If these guys come up and they're good, solid NFL players, you can mix them into the fucking system, especially with that fucking D-line being revamped. We definitely improved our linebacking situation. We improved our secondary. What more do you want, man? Like, no wonder why Wink was hugging Shane fucking gold bands. He's happy as shit. He's got a bunch of fucking people to fuck with now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we went out and signed that kid from Detroit, who's literally a year off of having almost a Pro Bowl season for them. I mean, like, come on, dude. So
nice balanced draft, man. Offense and defense. I think we nailed it out the park, man, with the balance on that squad.
And look, it's really going to come down to what I think next year is going to be, is where it's going to be either we need that linebacker, we need that strong safety, if you would, to come up and be that press guy. They didn't call them press safeties now. What the fuck they call them? You know what I mean? But basically, it was an old school strong safety box. Whatever the fuck it is. Right. Or we need another corner, right? We need that true number one because we're picking that. Or we fall right back to where we were. And now we go get that number one wide receiver where Jalen then falls into the 2 slot and Wendell's your new fucking slot receiver, right? We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. But that's the position we're currently in, where we're that guy away. Or, you know what? Darren Waller comes in, does his job, has a great season, and goes signs a big contract somewhere else. And you know what? Yes, we all love Bellinger, but maybe he's not that guy. And we got to go get a tight end. But I feel that we're in that sort of a situation more so than we were a year ago going into this season, which is confidence and feels good. And I don't think that last year, if you would, going to the playoffs and winning a playoff game is going to be a fluke. I think that that's going to be kind of be where we are. Whether or not we get out of the first round or not depends, matchups and health and all those type of
Yeah,
things.
all that.
But this season, if we're not in the playoffs, it's definitely going to be a bust to me.
At least they're like building something here. Guys are staying. They're going to be in the same system. All that matters. So we're looking now for like growth of these players to see how well they step up. So that's a wrap. That's a
Well,
wrap.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're right. I mean, look, and this is all the stuff we're gonna be talking about in more detail as the season goes on. But I mean, like, look, if the offensive line was what people have been screaming and crying about over the last 3 years, well, this organization, this fucking coaching staff and everything else has addressed it. They went out, they got the best right tackle they could get, or at least on paper, when they did last year.
Mhm.
This year, they go out and get arguably the best center they could in round 2. I mean, to go with Andrew Thomas, you literally have now the two cornerstone, the two bookend tackles, and your guy up the middle in the center. I mean, like what more do you want? You can find guards that can rotate if these guys are really that much in the real deal. Like it is what it is at that point. So that's going to be fucking fun and interesting to watch all summer long. And then all these corners and all these receivers and how do they fall? Look, the only thing with the receivers is I feel like you and I have had this discussion the last few seasons where it's like, look at the abundance of all these wide receivers. And then before you know it, we're running fucking this year's Richie James out there and hoping that we catch a fucking Victor Cruz again.
Yeah,
and
right.
I don't feel that this year because I feel like we went out and added 2 wide receivers that, listen, Jamison Crowder is what he is, but he's still just a good veteran slot receiver that's in there, right? So he could kind of pick up like Shepard's role almost when and if Shepard gets hurt, which you almost have to expect him to at some point in the season, right?
Even if
so
he
those
makes
2 guys can kind of mirror each other. And then you have those 2 guys sort of mentoring Wendell Robinson. And then when he's ready to go, he can now step into that sort of role, right? So that kind of takes care of those 3 guys where you're going to have Jalen Hyatt and Slayton on the outside and Paris Campbell perhaps competing there with Hodges, right? And those are going to be the 4 guys that compete for the outside. So it's going to be fun. And then, of course, the West Virginia stud that just fell through the entire draft and like he's going to be he's going to be the next Cal Clark Johnson, but we think about undrafted free agent. But
let's all calm down. Let's all calm down. Relax.
Yeah, and like I said, I was searching for the haters, I was searching for the trolls, and I didn't find many. So like it's kind of hard. Like what I think at the very least you could say about this entire draft in a nutshell is that they hit everything they were supposed to hit, and they ended up getting guys that may have fallen to certain parts, but they also showed that they weren't afraid to trade up if they had to. Granted, you could say it looked like they were desperate in round 1, but by the time you got to round 3, it just looked like a solid move. And it was like, fuck it, this is what this team's going to do. They see someone they like, they go after it. And you can't knock that. You know what I mean? Now it's just a matter of these guys can translate from the college football world to the NFL. And we'll see what remains to be seen. That's
it. We'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah, man. Listen, that's our recap. It follows up our 100th episode. Now it's at episode 101. So I don't know about you, Mike, but I started the clock back at 1. So we're at episode 1 in a way, right? We're gonna go back up and wait till we get to 200, right?
Season 2.
Yeah, right. Season 2, right? Exactly. So we're at season 2, episode 1. We hope you enjoyed our recap. You know what? If you got anything to share, any comments, hit us up in the DM at the BBOLYG podcast. We're always open to discussions. We love it. We're looking out there. We always like to hear the other opinions. And if anyone thinks that this whole draft was just terrible from the Giants, which I haven't heard anyone from, so if you come out of the woodwork, feel free. But if not, we'll be back at our new time on Monday nights. You can catch us again next week, and we'll be ready to go by then. Hopefully there'll be some new news that develop between now and then.
We'll see.
But we'll see you guys. Have a good one.
Go Giants.